It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the Naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome in to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 68 today. We thank you for being with us. 68 straight Saturdays, 68 straight shows, each 1 hour long, and we appreciate you being along for the ride. The pool is good to go, the hot tub is fired up, the grill is going full bore, fruits and vegetables off to the right, your favorite cold drinks off to the left, hot drinks and desserts inside, and by the way, special request from one of our regular listeners, we have a little cigar bar area off in the left back corner of the pool. A gentleman, I suppose ladies too, you want a cigar? Go back there and have one. And we're just going to have a great day enjoying the sun and the breeze on our skin, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. As a reminder, we are the official podcast for the American Association for Nude Recreation. Are you a member? If so, great. If not, dive in today. Go to AANR.com and sign up. We have to dive in right away, and Linda Weber is coming up in just a moment, president of AANR. Lisa Monroe will be here, and then part two with Naturist Trans Woman from the UK, SARAH TAYLER. We hope you enjoyed part one last week. For now, Linda Weber, the president of the American Association for Nude Recreation. We are headed out to California this morning. We're going to talk to the current president of the American Association for Nude Recreation, Linda Weber, who just got elected this past summer. We'll be making fairly regular appearances to update us on the what's going on with AANR. So let's welcome her to the show this morning from California, Linda Weber, the president. Good morning, Linda. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing well.
Good to see you. You're still smiling, so that's a very good sign that the presidency is working out for you and you're enjoying the ride so far, right?
Absolutely. I sure am.
I know you were going to dive in with both feet, and you have. You've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and you can certainly tell us whatever you want to there. One of the things I got from you when we talked just before we started recording is you're trying to make AANR members aware that there's more than Linda Weber to AANR. There's a whole bunch of people working daily, weekly, whatever they do, most of them for free, voluntarily. So you're trying to get their names out there, right, with a monthly note in the bulletin. Is that right?
That's true, because I realize in talking to the membership, they know the president's name, but they really don't know either what region they're in or the group that they would actually work with, and the region that they are closest to. So I thought what I would do is explain, not only is myself and our vice president and secretary, but we have trustees that work on their behalf. We have one for each region. So in the bulletin, I've started out with talking about myself, then the trustees. I'd like to get I'm going to probably put something about the presidents of each of the regions. And that's one of the things I challenged our membership. I said, I'm going to try to get more communication going back and forth, but we are a team. And so I said, I'm gonna ask you a quiz if I see you in person and say, what region are you from, and do you know who your president or trustee is? Because those are the boots on the ground people, and those are the people in their areas that they can go to the meetings and see the kinds of decisions that AANR leadership is making for them.
No, I fully agree. And I used to work fairly closely with a mayor of a decently sized city. We did a show every week about what's going on in his city. The whole purpose was to make him look good, make the city look good. It was out there for residents. Anybody could watch it, but it was tailored to the residents. And he said one of the things he got a lot was people would call City Hall and say, I want to talk to the mayor. And it would turn out that's really a city council issue. And so he took it upon himself. We used a number of shows to get city council members on. And even I was shocked, well into adulthood, that most of the residents didn't know there was a city council, let alone who the people were. So I guess it's fairly normal just in the day to day lives of people. They have so much going on. It's like, okay, Anna, Linda Weber, we're good to go. But there are a whole bunch of people out there and you're going to spotlight them. Have you started that yet, or is that yet to come, or what's going on there?
Yes, with the November issue of the bulletin, it will have a little spot about the what is a trustee, because I don't think a lot of people do know, and that is the layer right under the membership. Membership is at the top, then we have the trustees, and then myself and Eric Shudoff, who is the executive director, and then we go down into the regions. And I thought it was important to get the decisions and the people as close to the key decision makers within their area. People tend to come to me because I've been on social media, and they always have. And I have no problem answering, the questions if I can. But if it's something that I believe that the region president should know, then I will contact the regional president and say, we have something, going on here, and I'd like to bring you in. So I'm not sloughing off the question. I'm trying to just get it to be where it's a little bit closer to them. And so when they get that relationship, then they'll start attending the meetings. They'll start really seeing who's making the decisions. And, I want them to be a part of that. So that's what I wanted to do is kind of highlight those people that you don't really hear about on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, I think that's very wise. And how many trustees do you have with Anna?
We have 7, and that's 1 for each region.
Okay, that was my follow up question. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So everybody within the United States, anyway, has a trustee they can go to as well as a region president. Those are two different positions, correct?
That's true.
Okay. And to clarify, trustees are elected by AANR members. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, they're an elected position, just like myself.
Okay. But the presidents are elected by the specific regions. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So a lot of people out there people can go to, and it's great that you're highlighting and spotlighting them as well. And obviously, you have a staff that works out of the office in Florida. They're a paid staff, and they do a great job, and they deserve to be paid for what they do. But tons of volunteers behind the scenes that people don't know. And these trustees, these region presidents, they're all volunteers, aren't they?
Yes, and I think a lot of people don't know that the only paid staff is the office staff that administers, the cards and the information in the brochures and things like that. But within the regions, myself, we're all volunteers, and so that's another thing I like to highlight is these people have stepped up, hopefully for the right reasons, but they've stepped up to be a part of this, and they volunteer their time. I don't get paid, and so it's just, I would never want to get paid anyway. This is a volunteer thing. This is something I love. I do this, from my heart. So I want people to know that we've all stepped up to better this and make sure that nudism and naturism still exists far beyond when we're gone.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. And it's important to point out the volunteer aspect. I worked this municipality, another city, wanted to called me in to interview me for a possible position, helping their legal team and some other stuff, PR and podcasting would be part of it. And so I went to, did some research on them. And a lot of cities have a meeting a month, maybe 2 meetings a month. They were having 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 meetings a week. Thought, well, that's really excessive. What's going on over there? Because it was a small town. It wasn't like a gigantic city like New York or LA. So I went to the meeting just to check it out before my interview. And they had 7 city council people and they had 2 attorneys sitting there. I thought, well, that's really odd. Sometimes you have one, usually you have none unless something has come up. Well, I found out later the reason they had so many meetings is each board member got $350 for every single meeting. So they were trying to let's have meetings all the time, 10 meetings a day, let's go for it. And some of these people were making several tens of thousands of dollars just to represent the city, for what was supposed to be $50 a meeting, but they jacked it up to $350. So it's really important when you say all these AANR meetings going on, national level, region level, trustees, everybody involved except for the actual staff in Florida, they're volunteering their time, and that's hats off to them. And we want people to know that, right?
Yes, and that's why I wanted to be sure and get their positions and their names out so people would understand, all the people that are behind the scenes that they may not know about that are giving, of their time for this.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. Now, one time we talked fairly recently, within the last few months, you had talked about updating the software system or the computer system, which would then allow for automatic renewal. So people don't forget, my membership ran out. It's 2 years later. I guess I better sign up. You can automatically renew them. How is that project coming along? Is it in place? Is it yet to come? What's the update on that?
We're hoping, crossing our fingers by the end of the year to actually have it up and running. We want to make sure that when we've asked for some add-ons, one of them is the uh, automatic renewal, that it's in place and we can do it, and that we can just roll it out. I've been in on the calls, and that's one of the things that I thought was so important because we're so busy, and if we have automatic renewals, I don't know how many times, you've seen things where it's come through, oh, we've automatically renewed something, which is great because then you don't have to remember all that stuff. And it's a lot of work for the office. I've actually sat with the office on numerous occasions to see what they do. And it's an incredible amount of work following up with saying, you're going to be, coming up due. Then you've got here you're due, and then you're overdue. So it's a lot of work. It could be up to, 3 contacts to remind people. So this is going to free up their time to be able to focus on, more things for the members. And that's another thing that I wanted to do is make sure that we kind of have our house in order by streamlining as many processes that we can, so we could be a little more responsive to the membership.
Yeah, no, very well said. As I mentioned to you, and I think I even sent a note to you, we've gotten a number of emails here and direct messages on Twitter. People heard you say that on a previous interview, and they wrote in to say, great. And they went to check their own membership and found out, oh my goodness, it expired, and they renewed right away. So you got a number of renewals just by appearing on the show. And I can't imagine how many more hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands automatic renewals you'll get when you go to that system. I think that's a great deal.
Yeah, that's one of the things I thought, not only am I the president, but, I've been a member for, over 5 years. So these are things that were important to me being a member. So I finally now get to uplift them and say, let's work on these and get these things done for the people.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing you mentioned, I think you even mentioned this while you were running for president. We had you on the show as a candidate. You talked about, and I hope I get this title correct, Young Adult Diversity Something Council. I forgot the something. It starts with the letter A.
Yes.
What is that council, and is it going, and anything to report on that?
Yeah, it's a Young Adult Diversity and Advisory Council.
Oh, that's it.
So, yeah, it's a mouthful because I didn't want to say it was a committee because that sounds like a big, we're all going to be around a big table and, sitting there, for meetings. And for younger people, they don't have that kind of disposable time. They're working. And so I didn't want to make it sound like it was a locked in type thing. Most of them are. The committees, they're established. But since this is something new and I'm asking for younger people's opinions, I know that they can't dedicate the time every month to do something. So it was mainly to get their opinions and what they thought. And then if they can, stick around for the meetings, that's great. But if they can only do them, casually, it's a way for them to be heard, but not. I think sometimes the commitment, they think I can't do it, so I won't do it. I don't want to not be there. So this way, it was a way for people to drop in and out and be able to express their opinions or their ideas and not be locked in.
Yeah, I think that's very smart because I think you hit on it. The younger folks are working. They're not retired. They don't have 7 days a week. A neighbor of mine calls it Sunday. There's Sunday, and then there's Sunday, Monday, Sunday, Tuesday, Sunday, Wednesday. Every day is a Sunday to them because they're retired and they have nothing to do other than enjoy life and go to their favorite restaurant 7 days and 7 nights a week. People 25, 35, 45, hey, they're leaving at 6, 7 in the morning, 8 o'clock for work, not getting home till later. Then they have kids. They don't have time for all these meetings. But they can still participate on a short-term basis, right?
It's a way for them to be heard, and
Yeah.
that was one of the things when I was campaigning. When I mentioned that I was putting this together, that I actually had people say they wanted to be on it, and
Yeah.
so that was huge. And I kept a folder of all the ideas that people had sent to me, knowing that I could give that to the committee. And so that was the great part, is there was such excitement for it. So we've got people that are, wanting to step up and be heard. And that was the main purpose of it. When you're trying to tailor something to something that you don't know, I'm obviously older. I'm not 18 anymore, surprise. But I don't think like them. And so anything that I would think that they would love is probably off the mark. So, why would they listen to me? So by having the input into what they want, then the kinds of events that we create are going to be what they want to do, because they actually were there to create and craft it for us.
Yeah. Our club's still finding, families join, mom, dad, some kids. The kids grow up, they're still showing up every week or whatever. And then the kids move out on their own and they don't get a membership on their own. Is that the general trend? And if so, you're looking to reverse that, right?
I am, because it will, with the nudity that we have here, it is wholesome. And so the idea is that the families that have raised their kids in nudism and naturism tend to be healthier and have a better body positivity, and that projects out, because then when they see all the media and they talk to their friends and hear all the stuff that they have to be perfect, or they have to have the best clothes, they in the back of their mind are saying, well, that's your deal, not mine.
Yeah.
But we've seen a gradual movement away from the families, but that's we are going to be our history. We're our present, and tomorrow we're going to be our history. We need to have somebody in the present. We need to get those families back in there. And so I'd like to see more of a focus on families.
Now, out of curiosity, I know the young British naturists, obviously in Great Britain, part of the British naturism thing, they have a deal. I think it's 18 to 35. You can be a young British naturist, and there's a reduced fee to get in. And then at 35, your membership transfers over to be a full fledged adult, I guess, lack of a better term. But of course, the fee goes up. Is there a lesser fee if you're younger or not?
Yes, we have a student, and we also have a young adult. I believe it's like 18 to 25. And then when you are obviously older, then it would, transfer into that. But that's a way for it to be a little less cost. And, and then it tells us also what the dynamics are. If we're getting a big group of younger people, obviously that's going to be great. And we'll, get even more events going. But, for the most part, we're still working on getting that younger dynamic.
The terrific Linda Weber, our current president of the American Association for Nude Recreation. It's a two-part interview, so we'll get to part 2 on next week's show. You're listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 68. We thank you very much for being with us. And I don't know about you. Do you hear music in the background? Let's listen for a moment. Yeah, there's music there. That can only mean one thing. It's time for the great, the terrific, the fully clothes-free and fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the completely clothes-free and over-the-top smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I am doing very, very, very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. The listeners might have heard me laugh just a little bit during the introduction. You made a face at me from across the table. What was that all about? You trying to get me to crack up or what?
Well, it worked, didn't it? I always love to see that professional demeanor go awry.
Totally unexpected across the
Very
table,
good.
not that far away. She made a face at me. Now, I think it's inappropriate, but it was funny.
It was a funny face. It wasn't a mean face.
A funny
Gee
inappropriate. I'm
whiz.
just kidding. It's not inappropriate at all. We have fun around here, which is what clothes-free living does for a lot of people, we found out, right?
It really does. I mean, you might as well be happy, and if you're naked, you're happy. So
Yeah.
let's just enjoy life. It's much more fun to laugh than it is to
Oh,
be mean and nasty and cruel.
yeah. And we've said it before, I've never seen, and I'm sure they exist, I just haven't seen one, an angry naked person. They're not out there yelling and throwing tomatoes against the wall when they have their clothes off. It just brings upon a different feeling overall, I think. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's true. And I imagine there are times when people get aggravated. When anytime when, especially like if you're in a club organization or something like that, where you're
Yeah.
around a lot of people, depending on your mood and their mood, people can get annoyed. But I think for the most part, especially for naturists who can't get out and do this very often, you're enjoying it so much that you tend to leave the petty stuff behind, and hopefully that translates into just good experiences for people when they're all together in these groups.
Maybe that's a better way to put it, what you just said. Lots of things that would annoy you if you had your clothes on, just as a general course of life, you really don't care about when you have your clothes off. Like, okay, somebody had an extra iced tea, whatever. I'm
Yeah,
enjoying the sun and the breeze and my
exactly.
clothes off, so we'll deal with the tea later or never at all because who cares? We can always get more, right?
Exactly. So I think it changes our attitudes internally and therefore probably theirs. And so hopefully, those little problems just go away. We don't they're not worth dealing with in most cases.
Yeah, now if I wanted to be really inappropriate and humorous, at least to me, I might be the only one to laugh at this. I would tell people, you come in the door with your clothes on, ticked off, cussing everybody out here, throwing things against the wall. Your clothes come off, and then you transform into this very pleasant, happy persona. It wouldn't be true if I said that, but it would be funny, wouldn't it?
Well, and thank goodness it's not true, but I am happier
Uh,
without the clothes on, trust me.
uh,
But
yeah.
no, no, I try to be nice all times.
You tried to be nice at all times. Do you succeed in that quest?
Yes, I do. I'm actually pretty even keeled, and I
Yeah.
sort of don't, create waves. I'm not afraid of confrontation if I have to do it, but for the most part, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I wanted to get into, we've been getting a number of emails recently about the age old question. It keeps coming up. One member of a couple loves to be clothes free, wants to go to every nudist resort in the world, every naked beach, and be clothes free 25 hours a day. And the other partner, wife, husband, spouse says, being naked is wrong. Get your clothes on. This is disgusting and evil, and I can't believe you're even thinking about taking your clothes off. Talk about polar opposites. Now, there's an issue that can blow up a relationship. And we've talked about it before. It's best to address it before you get into the relationship, maybe the third date at the max. But if you've been married 25 years and you've kind of kept it quiet for a while, it's like, you know what? Darn it, I'm 50 now. I want to take my clothes off. And the other spouse says, what? Are you kidding me? That's evil and wrong. I want to mention a couple of things here. Now, you tell me what you think, because we get this a lot. I don't think there's a week that goes by where somebody's not writing in with the same issue over and over again. The most recent email that came in, I gave this guy some advice on this. That's basically the issue. He wants to be clothes free. She does not. She wants her clothes on. She wants his clothes on. And so he has to just bob and weave when she leaves the home. Then he can take his clothes off when she comes back. Well, they probably ought to go back on. So I said, if the woman, in this case, his wife, she is a woman, has issues, she might want to listen to other women
Hmm.
talk about it. And I recommended every segment that you and I do. Obviously,
Hmm.
you're a woman, you're a clothes free woman and loving it. You were not raised that way. You
No,
discovered this
not at
later in
all.
life, yeah, as an adult. And it might be good for her to hear your segments, all 68 of them after this show. And then I also recommended listening to the full interviews with each woman we've had on this show. We've had several. I won't list them off now, but we've had a number of women for the full hour shows here. Do you think that's at least beginning good advice for a woman slash wife to hear other women talking about it and say, hey, this is actually normal and terrific? You might want to try it. What do you think?
I think it's very good advice because I think that, a lot of times women who are fearful, as in the case of this particular wife, they're fearful because they have no knowledge, they have no frame of reference to figure out, what their emotions should be, how people are going to perceive them. I know there's an awful lot of talk about body consciousness and body positivity, but it's not all just that. Some of it's just what's in your own head about, how am I going to react to others as much as how they're going to react to me. And I think it's fear. I truly think it's fear because I know as a person who came into it. Now, I grew up in a non-naturist household, but my parents were not prudes necessarily. There was no, oh my God, you're going to wear those short shorts. You can't do that. My mother wore short shorts and a tube top to cut the yard. So there was no shamefulness about it. It was just that it was expected to be clothed. My transition from, and I always hated clothes. I mean, I was just, happy to wear the skimpiest thing I could wear if I was going to go to the beach or whatever. But so I think a lot of it is your own personal attitude, and so that's someplace they have to start first. Not even about being naked, but looking at who you are and what is important to you and becoming comfortable with that. It's not necessarily becoming comfortable with your body, it's becoming comfortable with kind of who you are. So if you hear that from other people, I think it's good advice, to
Mm.
know that these are people just like you and they don't have an issue with it. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
Why are you?
Yeah. And he mentioned in one of his emails, we've been going back and forth a little bit. He read somewhere or heard somewhere that starting off getting naked in the home, just doing regular daily living with your clothes off, is a good way to start because then it's
Mhm.
just the two of you, husband and wife, together in the home. And she had an issue even with that. Like, what if the neighbors see? What if a neighbor comes to the door? Well, to me, and I didn't tell him this, but there are ways to prevent that. You keep the door closed, for example, maybe have the shades pulled, whatever. But broad daylight, you really can't see into a home anyway
Mhm.
unless you press your face against the
Yeah.
window, and then that's another issue with the neighbor, not with you being nude. And we've gotten several of these emails, but this most recent one really kind of struck me because they're really going through a thing here.
Yeah, they really are.
He really wants to go to naturist resorts and nude beaches and be clothes free all the time. And she's the exact opposite. Clothes off is evil and wrong.
Yeah.
And I go back, I said this a long time ago on this show, several episodes ago. When you are born, the moment you are born is the best moment of your life. You're entering the world. Here I am. Wow, is this fantastic? And you have your clothes off at that moment. And so a lot of times we want to get back to the greatest moment of our life, which was being born. And oh, yeah, we had our clothes off. So I think psychologically, deep down, we have a desire to be clothes free. But our society has said, hey, get some pants and a shirt on, or we're going to march you off to the local jail. But we have to get back to that. And shows like this, and some other people out there, and some of our authors we've had on the show are doing a lot to address it. Any last thoughts on maybe helping this particular couple out or any of them that have written in?
I wish I had a solution for this couple because I do think that there's a really major problem here. And, I think there's needs to be patience on his side and there needs to be understanding on hers, and whether or not they come together. It depends on how they react with each other. And so maybe she will listen to some of the shows and
Hmm.
get a sense that, life is good this way. There's nothing wrong or evil about it. And maybe they can come to some compromise, but it's a really serious situation.
Certainly our best wishes to them. And yeah, listen to Lisa Monroe's segments, all 68 of them, as well as all of the other women who appeared on the show. Women, adult women, love clothes for a living for all the right reasons. So with that, Lisa, unfortunately, we have to head for the hills. Do you promise to have a clothes-free week this coming week?
I certainly do, and I expect you will the same.
I absolutely will.
Goody.
And with that, have a great clothes-free week. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye, Frank. Take care.
You too. Bye. The terrific Lisa Monroe, bubbly, shining personality, floats in here once a week to do those segments. And in her spare time, which she has none of, she does our website work and our Thursday memes. Lisa Monroe, we appreciate everything that she does for us. You're listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 68. We hope you're enjoying the show and having a great clothes-free time during the show, our time to get together on a weekly basis. For now, let's get to part 2 of my interview with SARAH Taylor Naturist Trans Woman from the UK. Yeah, most people don't realize that. Well, they never realize until they actually go, like you did. The heat inside of a TV studio, generated mostly by the lighting, which is very intensive. It just really jacks up the heat, and everybody would be passed out within 10 minutes if they didn't cool it down. So they tend to overcool it just to be safe. They don't want stuff burning up. They don't want people getting sick. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's darn cold, and there are some
It is
TV
darn
crews.
cold.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. And it was a huge studio as well. So it
yeah,
was massive. They couldn't heat it up. And
yeah,
certainly on this last occasion, of course, we had the energy crisis. So any excuse to keep energy bills down, that was a perfect excuse. You
that's
know,
right.
I'm sure their excuse would also have been so that when the men were on there, they were cold enough to stay cold.
Yeah.
That I don't know, but it was just so cold.
Yeah, yeah, which is the reality of being in a TV studio. Just want to remind the listeners, Sarah, we're talking to Sarah Taylor from the UK. You've heard part of her story. We have more to go. Born and raised as a boy and as a man, and got married to a woman and played the role very well. And then at some point decided, okay, that's enough of this nonsense. Transitioned to become a woman. We'll get more of that story in just a moment. Sarah, if anybody wants to reach out to you or talk to you or hear more of your story, do you have a website or email or social media? What do you want to put out there?
Oh, well, actually, I don't really. I'm certainly on social media,
Yeah,
on Instagram, which only really recently set up, but I intend to make a lot more of that use in September. But I'm on Facebook, and people are more than welcome to look me up. My name, Sarah Taylor, Taylor spelled ER at the end, so it's actually really easy to find me.
yeah.
And yeah, so if people want to reach out and talk, share experiences or anything like that, I'm very open to that. Absolutely.
Okay. We don't want you to be bombarded with everybody in the world, but if somebody has a legitimate question or a
Yeah,
concern or just wants to say something to you, that's nice. You encourage that.
absolutely. I welcome that. I welcome that because, I've gone through things that very few people have gone through.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are going through this are also very private as well. So
Yeah.
it's very rare to come across someone who is doing this, who is very open and willing to share. And it's almost like, I feel almost like a duty that, okay, well, if I am so open and I'm so public and I'm willing to share this, I should be available to those who genuinely want help, advice, or questions, or just to make contact. Because
Yeah.
if I can help others in any way, then that would make me just so happy.
Okay. And I want to get into that in just a moment about how people have reacted to you, people in your personal life. David is this great man, and suddenly, whoa, what happened to David? We'll get to that in a minute. I want to finish up the naked attraction thing. So, on this show, when you were David, you were clothed, and there were six naked women at some point, and then down to whatever, two. And at what point did you have to take your clothes off? Near the end?
Yes, so at the very end, once I had eliminated four of them, so there were two left, then have to go off, take your clothes off, and then you get called back onto the stage and then they review you. Now, actually, there was something so funny about this. When you see the episode, I think it's series 3, episode 4, when David comes on, he's coming on naked in front of the cameras that everyone else, knowing that millions of people are going to be looking. Normally, people would tend to think in that situation, oh my goodness, people are looking at my naked body. They're looking at my genitals, whatever. But no, what was going through his mind, the thing that was worrying him, was that when he comes on, he'll be walking like a woman because he always walks like a woman. So he had to walk like a man. And it's so funny when you see him come on, he
Yeah.
is like strutting with his legs sticking out as though he's got, I don't know, a couple of watermelons and eggplant
Yeah.
between his legs. It's just so funny. And when I see that, I just crack up laughing because I can remember what was going through his mind, trying to look like a man because everyone's
Yeah.
looking at you. Wasn't worried about being naked and people looking
Okay.
naked body. It's about looking like a man.
Well, yeah, you had to play the role.
Absolutely.
What was it like being in the studio? Roughly how many people were in the studio?
The studio bit that you see at that point, there is just myself, the hostess, Anna Richardson, and
Mm,
the two contestants who I'm then choosing. And then surrounding there are big flat black curtains. Behind the curtains are probably about 40 to 50 people. So obviously, director, producers, sound, camera, staff, helpers, runners, electricians, everyone. So there are lots and lots of people around, but you just do not get to see them. Occasionally, you
okay.
might see the shadow of a cameraman or a boom microphone holder. But
Okay.
otherwise, you just don't see anyone. It genuinely feels like it's just you and, two or three others and no one else in the world. When actually, in fact, the world is watching.
Well, yeah, that's the other point. So you're standing out there on TV naked, and eventually, a lot of people are going to see this. I think before we started, you said about 6 million people have seen you nude on this show, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, because I've been on the show twice, I'm sure,
Yeah. Right.
it's probably going to be a lot more than that
Right.
now as well.
Right.
And the second show, the most recent one I did is Sarah. They do actually show clips of the original one that David was on, so
Okay.
they're actually able to see David as he was
Yeah.
and myself as I am.
Okay. Well, what did that do for you? Either good, bad, ugly, indifferent? Okay, I'm on stage nude, and everybody around the world's looking at me. Any effect at all, or it's just another day in the life of you?
Nothing is bad. Everything is positive in my life.
Yeah.
So what I found with that is it gave me a great deal of confidence, a great deal of not just body positivity, because I always had that, and David always had that, but it just gave me just more confidence to, it sounds really silly, but to talk to other people. David
Yeah.
was absolutely incredibly shy, really, really shy, would sort of have difficulty talking to anyone
Yeah.
unless they fully engage conversation with him.
Yeah.
By going on their show, that was a huge leap outside his comfort zone. And for me, obviously, I've taken thousands and much bigger leaps outside my comfort zone since then,
Yeah.
and that has just grown body confidence and just my confidence in myself. As far as the naturism bit goes, I don't think it made any difference, to be honest, because I have absolutely no issues with people seeing my naked body because it's just another naked body. Whatever size or shape it is, it's
Yeah.
just another one.
Okay.
So I don't think my body confidence from the point of being naked could ever have been made greater than it was.
Okay.
That was always there.
Okay. Now, the last question on this show, and then we'll move on to some other areas. You're on stage totally nude as a man. Later, you're on stage totally nude as a woman. Any different thoughts going through your head?
Good question.
Well, thank you.
Do you know what? This is a really good question.
Yeah.
The only thought difference, well, I mean, the second time going on with Sarah, my confidence was just through the roof. I was just so relaxed. I think David was a lot more nervous, again, worried about the image he was portraying as a man, trying to be a man. And so I just didn't have any of that. But
Okay.
also, he did have the worry that, he's being recorded, he's naked. What if he relaxed too much and if he started to find an arousal or anything like that? Maybe that was the only difference.
Okay.
Otherwise, no, there was no difference. I
Okay.
think body positivity was always there. I was just a lot more relaxed
Okay. Well, that's
and
good to hear.
cold.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's good to hear. You've experienced life as both. And, some people say, well, men don't have to worry about this, only women do, or vice versa. Women have to not worry about this, but men do. But basically, when it comes down to it, you're saying, we're just people, we're nude, and we kind of have the same thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there
Okay.
is no really no difference in thoughts or feelings. We're naked, we're nude, we are as we are. There really is no particular difference.
Okay.
Although I do have an observation, we maybe want to talk about this later on, about how there is a difference. Society has brought up men and women and in how they see their bodies naked. I mean, obviously, I'm one of the very few people who has had the opportunity to live life as a man completely and live life as a woman. So I go to the gym a lot and swim. So in changing rooms, I've noticed there is a significant difference between the way that men change, let's say, are willing to expose their body, and the way women change in the
Yeah.
changing rooms. There
Yeah.
is actually a difference. It's actually really sad
Yeah.
because women are so much more inhibited in changing. They will always use cubicles or put a towel over when changing,
Yeah.
whereas the majority of men won't. And
Yeah.
there's a huge, huge difference between that, which I think is really sad because that must mean for some reason women are brought up to feel as though they should hide their bodies, that
Hmm.
there is like something to be ashamed of, something like that. I don't understand. I mean, obviously, you need psychiatrists to or
Right.
psychologists really to come in with expert opinion on that. But it's my observation from both sides that men seem less inhibited about their
Hmm.
bodies
Yeah.
and women seem much more inhibited about their bodies, which is really sad.
Yeah. Well, how much of that, uh, obviously, what you just said is true, but how much of that also is a safety factor? If I, as a woman, am seen scantily clad or naked, a good chance some men will come up to me and approach me and harass me, or even if they're nice, I just don't want to deal with these guys right now, or perhaps a far worse act. How many of that is embedded in the brains of females? Do you think?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, these observations were in solely single sex changing areas.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not mixed areas in any way at all. In the women's changing area, the women will generally become much more not clothed. What's the word? Inhibited. They will very much want to cover up, wear a towel or guard or be in a changing cubicle. In back in my time in as a man presenting as a man, I just found that men didn't often use cubicles. If they were changing to underwear or something, you wouldn't put a towel over yourself while you do it. It would just be a very quick act and,
Yeah.
obviously facing away because no one generally is exhibitionist. So you're not actually showing yourself. But there is that inhibition, much, much greater inhibition with women. And I just wonder whether it is a societal thing where women are brought up. I unfortunately wasn't brought up as a woman,
Yeah.
but where women are brought up to feel the need to cover their body because of that societal thing. I don't know. I don't know. But
Well,
it's actually really sad. That's the whole thing. It's
yeah.
sad.
Right.
It's unnecessary.
Well, that's what I meant. Obviously, the women are with the women in the locker room, so no man's going to attack them there. But it's already been embedded in their brain, so no matter where they are, they have a little. I better be careful here, and I don't know the answer. I mean, that's why I'm asking you. Do you think there's some of that going on too?
Yeah, yeah, I see. Sorry, I've got the wrong end stick. I do understand what you mean. Yeah, exactly right. I think women are sort of told, if you're going out, let's say you're going out partying and things like that, the more revealing you are of your body, the more you are inviting the more pestilent side of
Mm.
perhaps male behavior.
Yeah.
And maybe that is the sort of thing that then carries on into a perfectly safe private environment, like a changing room,
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
just carry on that that
Yeah.
that thing. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know the answer either, but it's an observation I've noticed, which I just think is sad
Yeah.
that's the way it is.
Well, I had heard about this. I think my first or second year of college, which was well over 200 years ago. It was a long time ago. I went to college,
I
and
know
I
that
already
feeling.
Yeah, I already knew the locker room life as a guy. I'd grown up playing sports. I was always in locker rooms, and we were always naked. If you got dressed too quickly in the locker room as a guy, there was something wrong with you. Oh boy, better watch out. He must be. You just basically had to stay naked until somebody said, "Okay, guys, we got 2 minutes to get out of here." Then you'd put your clothes on and get out of there. Otherwise, you were naked, and if you weren't, people thought there was something wrong with you. And so I remember asking this a woman, about my age. I don't know how we got on the topic, but I said, what's it like in the women's locker room? Basically the same. And she said, "Oh no," she goes, "You hardly ever see a naked woman in the women's locker room. Kind of like you just described. They duck into a stall or a cubicle, or they have towels wrapped around. They put their underwear on with the towel wrapped around. It's very rare you see anything." And then she told me there was this one woman who every day she was an athlete, but also whatever gym classes. Every day she would come out nude from the shower, walk around with no towel, hop up on a bench, and then style her hair or brush her hair like, "Hello, everybody, I'm naked. Please look at me." And everybody thought that was weird. And I thought, well, no, that'd be me if I were, but I didn't go down that road. But yeah, stark differences between the two locker rooms, at least at one time. And you think that there still are?
It certainly seems that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. From
Yeah.
what I've seen,
Yeah.
although, I just go to the same place, the same
Sure.
gymnasium and club.
Sure.
So whether it's different in other places, I don't know. I've just stayed
Yeah.
in this one place. It's just an empirical observation.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you think? Some in some places they have mixed changing rooms. You know, whether you're a man or a woman, that's where you go to change and shower and whatever. Any thoughts on that? Is that a good thing? Is that maybe something we should stay away from, even in naturism? Or what do you think?
I did actually go to a few years ago. I was still presenting as a man, and I did briefly go to a gym where they had mixed locker rooms,
Okay.
but then there was also a single room which was purely single sex, either male or female.
Okay.
And that worked really well because a lot of people were happy to go into cubicles and change,
Yeah.
regardless of whether the next cubicle is occupied by
Yeah.
a male or female. But if you wanted to be a more communal change or something, you needed more room, then you had the single sex room as well. That actually worked really well. I mean, the
Yeah.
showers are in the single sex. There were showers in the communal areas, but no naturism was
Okay.
there. This is Britain, for goodness sake. Prudes
Yeah.
all around. You don't do that.
Well, that's what we're trying to get to. It might take another 50 billion years to get there, but okay, you're at a place where you need to shower, whether it's a gym or whatever, and you just go in and shower with everybody else who's showering, male, female, young, old, really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And nobody cares. There's no, oh, look at
Yes.
that guy, look at that gal. No, it's just, hi, how you doing? My name is whatever, and good to see you, and having a good time today as you're showering.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yes.
Do you think we'll ever get to that, even a small percentage wise, before all is said and done here?
I think we will. I think we
Good.
will. Maybe not to this sort of utopian perfect level that we
Right.
would really love to see, because
Right.
that's never going to happen. There are always going to be those with beliefs and values that will never meet the same as us.
Right.
But I think, with the more openness, the more acceptance of naked bodies, whether it's on a show that's about dating, sexually dating, or whether it's just about just enjoying naturism, I think there's more chance we can get to that point where that will happen. But as you say, it is going to take, another
Yeah.
50.2 billion years or whatever. But it's going to get there. Absolutely, it's going to get there. Always be positive. It's going to happen.
We're working on it little by little.
Yes, little by little. Yes.
That's right. Now, I also wanted to ask you, we're talking to SARAH Taylor. You've heard her story. So you lived life about 50 years or so as David, this man. And then suddenly you decided, you know what? I'm going to go for broke. I'm going to become Sarah and have all the surgeries and everything else that goes with that. How did people react to you? People you knew well, either from work or your family members, like, David, you're what? Any responses, or how did people react?
I know that is the biggest worry. The biggest worry when you decide to transition.
Yeah.
I spoke to my children, who were incredibly supportive, and I spoke to my ex-wife because she's still a really good close friend, and
Okay.
her opinion matters. So
Okay.
those are the only three people that I valued the opinion of. So how do you go about it? I decided to put a video on Facebook, and I said to everyone, look, I've discovered I'm trans, and this is who I am. This is who I've always been. And it makes all the little quirky, odd things in my life have suddenly come together. Everything makes perfect sense. And so, having had a formal assessment, I know I am trans. I'm going to make the transition in a week's time. The response I had from there, every single one, even from those who I thought would really not be accepting of it, were
Yeah.
positive, were full of love and support. And so I changed my plan from going a further week to the following day. I
Wow.
killed off David the following day. Yes, I made the change straight away because there was love. There was love from those who loved me. There was love from friends, family, neighbors. Everyone was supportive. And if they weren't supportive, they had the decency not to say so, which was
Yeah.
perfect. And
Yeah.
so that gave me the impetus to do it the following day. So from the moment I suspected or discovered I was genuinely trans to the point where I lived full time was just a week. I think it was a week and a day.
Okay. And then how long, all the surgery stuff, and by the time from that day when you went in for your first appointment to the day, physically anyway, you're a fully blown woman. A number of
Yes.
years, right? A few years involved.
No. Well, this
No.
is the thing. Actually, it was, as far as I understand, it was actually the quickest full transition in UK history.
Whoa.
It
All
was
right.
51 weeks. It
Oh, I didn't
was,
realize that.
yeah, it
Wow.
was so fast. So what happened was, yeah, so I started transitioning the day after I discovered that everyone was supportive. A week later, I was then on the hormones, so the estrogen and the anti-androgens to stop the testosterone. Then it was 6, 7 months later, I had the facial feminization surgery because my face was just so masculine. We had to
Yeah.
chop it
Right.
about. So that was a huge operation. And oh my
Yeah.
goodness, recovery was
Yeah.
extremely painful for a couple of days.
I'll bet. Yeah.
After that, I briefly had vocal fold surgery to change the pitch of the voice. Actually, that didn't work. So
Okay.
my voice is still the same. I can still go down to the old David voice, but
Okay.
I just never do it.
Okay.
And then 2 months after that was the breast and genital surgery, which
Okay.
together was incredibly painful, but incredibly worth it. So
Yeah.
at the point of 51 weeks, everything was changed.
Okay.
Legally, I was changed. Physically, I changed. Not 1 millisecond have I ever doubted what the choice I made. I
Yeah.
know every single second it's the right thing to do. It's
Yeah.
unusual. It's difficult for some people to accept, but it's the right thing for me.
Yeah.
And it's made me so, so happy.
Well, you mentioned a few times David, and I noticed you've talked about him in the past. David did this. It's not even you anymore. It's like some guy named David a bunch of years ago. But
Yeah.
you mentioned he was kind of on the shy side, a little bit withdrawn, and wasn't sure how to act in polite company. That's not you anymore. So not only did you physically change, but like your personality has changed, at least according to what you've said and what I'm hearing today. Do you agree
Yeah.
with that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, I mean, occasionally I use I when I'm referring back to being the masculine form because it's just so much easier and it just
Yeah.
flows easier. But
Yeah.
in truth, David is really very different to me. And I know that sounds strange. I know it sounds difficult for people to understand, but I promise it's true. Now, obviously, some of the inherent characteristics of being empathic, kind, nice, loving naturism, and all that all stays there. But the big difference is the confidence, the boost to understanding yourself, to loving yourself so much more. That has changed my attitude to life. It's made me certainly a lot more outspoken, a lot more accepting, and just incredibly happy to the point now where I describe myself as insouciant. I really don't worry about anything
Yeah.
because I'm just so happy and I don't take drugs. So it's not drugs either. I rarely drink, so it's not a drink. I'm just happy, happy, happy as myself.
Yeah.
I just have water, as you can see.
Yeah. Now, it sounds like if I'm putting the timelines together, you attended a naturist resort as David, and now you're attending that same place as Sarah. And I understand the reaction's been really good, really positive, which is the theme of naturism. We accept
Yes.
everybody at all times. Is that basically how it's happened for you?
Absolutely. And I think this is probably one of the most important things I really would like to talk about in this podcast.
Yeah.
So David went to and specifically this is a hotel in the UK. It's the only naturist hotel in the UK, sadly. And there's only
Hmm.
one, ridiculous,
Yeah.
but that's the way
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And he went there and made friends, as you do, because naturists are very friendly and welcoming. And that was lovely. So it was actually soon after that that he discovered he was trans.
Okay.
And I then went back about 6 or 7 months later. So this was before facial surgery and before genital surgery. I'd had estrogen, so I had some small breasts developing. And it was absolutely petrifying. I was so scared about going back, but I had to go back because I'm a naturist. I enjoyed naturism.
Yeah.
I was worried, what would people think? What would they say? What would they do as I turn up presenting as a woman? I had feminine hair. I used what I thought was light makeup. In actual fact, I just plastered so much bloody war paint on there. It's ridiculous. Absolutely crazy. My upper half was feminine. The face
Yeah.
was a bit masculine. And I
Okay.
had male genitals. And I was actually petrified. But at the first sort of part of the evening, as I was going around, I would strategically carry the towel in front of my lower half
Yeah.
and sit in the sauna with legs together and things like that, which is really quite uncomfortable. You need your legs apart in the sauna.
Right.
And as the evening went on, because I was staying there in the night, I just let it go. And what happened was occasionally there might be a curious, slightly surprised glance, but that was all. There was nothing else. Nobody questioned. I mean, you could tell I was a trans woman. Yeah, my
Mm.
voice is much, much deeper than this. My face is masculine. I still had male genitals, but I was
Yeah.
presenting as a woman.
Right.
And so people were interested in that part of the story, but no one made any comments about, let's say, the freakiness or the unusual vision of what they were
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah.
And then that's when I realized, as I had suspected all the time, that naturists will never judge you
Yeah.
by your body.
Yeah.
They never will. And which actually leaves you, I think I said in a message last night, when they don't judge you by the body, it leaves your mind free to be itself. You
That's
can
it.
relax as yourself. And with naturists around, you are not judged. You can be yourself and feel completely safe and secure. And that actually blew me away, knowing that I was accepted for me, regardless of how bizarre it may have looked to anyone. They
Yes.
accepted me for me.
And that really is the whole point of naturism. We accept everybody for who they are. We don't care where they work or what their background is. Just, hello, my name is so and so. What's your name? Great.
Yeah,
Let's talk about everything under the sun. And nobody else cares about the other junk. And
yeah,
we don't say this to be funny, but when you strip away your clothes, you also strip away the nonsense.
yes,
And it's people like you and other people. At first when they hear that, oh yeah, right, I'm going to strip naked, and people make all kinds of comments, but then they actually do it and they realize, wow, not only is it true, but it's a very powerful feeling, isn't it?
absolutely. It is. And, it doesn't just apply to someone going through a transition or anything like that. It applies to
Right.
absolutely everyone, regardless of any way that you might negatively critique your own body. Oh, I'm too big, I'm too small, I'm too fat, too thin, whatever. It
Mhm.
makes absolutely no blooming difference whatsoever. People will accept you for who you are, regardless of what your body is. And that is such a beautiful freedom feeling. And actually, it really does generate body confidence. Whatever
Yeah.
negativities you may have, and we all have maybe some negativities about our bodies, really, they just fly out the window
Yeah.
because they're never realized. People never comment on them. And to be honest, they probably don't even see them. They don't even notice it. They don't exist. It's a figment of the imagination.
Yeah.
And that's why naturism allows you to be free and to enjoy that passion.
Very well said. The naturist communities or businesses should take what you just said and put it on a continuous loop and play it in their stores and their offices,
Yeah,
because that's the biggest
absolutely.
selling point for naturism right there.
Yes.
It's been great to have had you on the show. We've been talking to SARAH Taylor. You know her whole story now. Shy man, very out there, exuberant woman, and everything in between. SARAH Taylor, before we let you go, tell our listeners again how they can find you if they have something you want to say or ask or communicate in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Facebook. It's probably easier to find me on Facebook. And my name is SARAH Taylor, Sarah with a H, Taylor with ER at the end. I know it's an odd spelling, Tayler. It's actually a French ancestral line that I got to blame for that. So I'm actually really quite easy to find. I'm based in Plymouth in the UK, yeah, actually where the Pilgrims, first European settlers headed for the New World back in,
Oh,
it's 1620, 404 years ago.
yeah,
So,
not
yeah.
bad at all.
So I'm based in Plymouth in the UK. And yeah, if you got questions or anything, maybe if I can give you any help or any direction, anything at all, how to be as blooming happy as me. This just, yeah, without taking drugs or drink, just be happy.
Yeah.
Yes. Then contact me. Absolutely. I'm very open, as you probably can tell. And so, yeah, any genuine comments or questions are very, very welcome.
All right, so they can find SARAH Taylor, Tayler, on Facebook. And SARAH Taylor, go out there and have a great clothes-free day. We'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
The terrific Sarah Taylor. We hope you enjoyed her interview these last 2 weeks, and her contact information is in the show notes. And we thank Sarah Taylor for all of her time on today's show. On the next two shows, episodes 69 and 70, our special guests will be Blaney and Steve, the owners of Playa Sonrisa in Mexico. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 68 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here, and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.